I finished volume 5 of Stars of Chaos. This volume had the end of the main story as well as 15 extras afterwards. This volume picks up right after the events of volume 4 when Shen Yi risked his life to pull Chen Qingshu out of a burning temple of the northern tribe's goddess right after she found a statue. The hope is that something about this statue will be able to help them finally find a cure for the poison that Kungung has been dealing with for years, since his maternal aunt poisoned him when he was a child. Luckily for them, the statue was etched with what appears to be the goddess's secret techniques, so they finally have hope to cure Kungung, which makes Guyun happy, but then he remembers that he swore that if they could cure Kungung that he would go to the national temple and burn incense, which he's not excited about. Kungung is still in the south. He has stepped down from his position in the government, which was never meant to be permanent. He had even told the emperor that he wanted to temporarily step down. However, Feng Qin, one of the nobles in the court, doesn't want Kungung to come back, and he recommends him to help the imperial envoys in order to keep him away longer, but things don't go exactly the way he planned them to. Kungung was just supposed to assist and not have any authority, but Kungung is charismatic, has fought side by side with garrison troops twice, had a respected general as his Shifu, and while their romantic relationship isn't widely known, it is known that Guyun, who is also respected by the troops, cares for Kungung, and that Kungung cares about Guyun as well. So when the Imperial envoy shows up, he just ends up following Kungung's lead. Kungung is also engaging in and winning some naval skirmishes with the Far Western's navy, while also training soldiers on the side. So there isn't anything that Kungung is doing that anyone can really complain about. Also, it's starting to be time for the war beacon tickets that the government sold while they were poverty stricken to be paid out. The court can't afford to fail to pay back these war beacon tickets because it would just cause issues for them in the long run. Except the original plan that would lead them to have the money in order to pay them out doesn't end up working out after Kungung left the capital. They also couldn't figure out a solution for this problem, so as much as the nobles don't like it, the six ministries end up submitting a joint memorial to invite Kungung back to the Grand Council. At this point in the story, the conflicts are Kungung and the imperial court, specifically the nobles and their families in the imperial court, and Guyun with the Far Westerners' navy, which is being led by the Far Westerners' Pope. They've already dealt with the conflict in the north, and after the 18 tribes surrender, they and their lands end up being brought into Great Liang and becomes the northernmost province. And with that, Great Liang's Violet Gold issue is basically solved as they now have the former 18 tribes. And once the railways and the steam locomotives that Kungung and the Li Shu Institute are working on are operational, transportation of goods will be easier and much faster. Kungung is making his way to the capital while Guyun is heading south to the war front. They do end up crossing paths during this, and that will be the last time they see each other in person for a while and go back to communicating through letters. And during this period that they are apart, Kungung is worried about Guyun but doesn't want Guyun to be distracted by worrying about him, and vice versa. Guyun is worried about Kungung but doesn't want Kungung to be distracted by being worried about him. Feng Qing and the nobles really want to get rid of Kungung and his reforms. They liked how things were before and they don't like the changes that he's putting in. They try to argue that the Grand Council should be disbanded and that they should try for peace with the Far Westerners, which doesn't end up working. They had also tried to sneakily make a deal with the Far Westerners. They also mention how they are the reason why the current imperial family is on the throne, as the late emperor was only able to ascend with their family's backing in the first place, and that the current emperor Li Feng should remember that. Meanwhile, in the south, Guyun isn't having the best time. He was able to get the Far Westerners' navy to retreat, but the medicine that he's been taking for years to help with his eyesight and hearing is no longer working. This has been coming on for a long time, and he knew this would end up happening eventually. The medicine had been losing efficiency since the beginning of the story, but this was a pretty bad time for it to stop working completely. Also, with all of the injuries, battles, and not really getting proper rest in between everything, also isn't helping Guyun and his overall health. Guyun ends up calling Shen Yi to come south to help him, but doesn't contact Shen Qingshu as he doesn't want to distract her from finding the cure for Kungung. The Far Westerners end up attacking again, which is when the nobles in the court first attempt to end the Grand Council and call for peace fails. Also, Li Feng is really starting to think about how the nobles seem to think of themselves as above the imperial family since they keep going after Kungung. But they just keep going. They try and make a deal with the Far Westerners. They are also stalling the railways from being built. However, Kungung and Guyun are not in the dark to their schemes. Guyun goes into battle against the Far Westerners, and he has several letters prepared in advance in case things go well, but also in case things go wrong. Luckily, they win a great victory, and the idea of ending the war and entering into peace negotiations are completely thrown out the window. Li Feng is not going to entertain it since it looks like they can win this war. But Guyun was badly injured during this battle. However, it's being kept a secret, so no one in the court knows about it. Also, with this victory, Li Feng is worried about the state of the court his son, the crown prince, will inherit. He does see the value in the Grand Council, but still sees Guyun and Kungung as a threat to his power and plans to get rid of them the first chance he gets after things are stable. Which is insane because these two are a big reason as to why the country is doing well. But at this point, the noble families are ready to get rid of Li Feng, Kungung, and the crown prince, and they end up planning a coup. They end up capturing Li Feng, but Kungung gets away with the crown prince and is protecting him. The nobles try to get Li Feng to meet their demands, but Li Feng does realize that they don't plan to let him live long, and that they probably won't let the crown prince live if he won't be a puppet for them. Luckily, Kungung had a plan for this. Earlier on before this, Chen Qingshu managed to find a cure, and Kungung started getting treatment, and around the time he was getting treatment, he had received word about what the nobles were planning. Unfortunately for Li Feng, he ends up getting badly injured by Feng Qing, and while he's dying, Kungung subtly threatens him with the crown prince's life to make him emperor. So Kungung is now the emperor. Kungung also knew that things were being hidden from him. He ends up going south to see Guyun, where he finds out Guyun was seriously injured. Around the same time, everyone down there is finding out that Li Feng had passed away and Kungung is now the emperor. Another battle with the Far Westerners happened pretty soon after Kungung shows up, but they do end up winning, which leads to Great Liang winning the war. Kungung keeps the crown prince as his heir, which I do like. It did seem like Kungung and the crown prince did have a pretty good relationship whenever you saw them during the story. And Kungung did act as a teacher for the crown prince for a while. Kungung also doesn't consider himself as an emperor. He thinks of himself more as emperor regent. And that's basically the end of the main story. I really did enjoy this story a lot. Kungung and Guyun are great characters, and I also like the side characters. And overall, I think that the story is very interesting and good. And I really enjoyed all the extras that came after the main story. There were 16 extras total, and here's a quick summary of each of them. In the first extra, Kungung dreams of a memory from his childhood. It's a memory of him with his maternal aunt. He had already given Kungung the poison that he had to deal with during the main story, and as a result, the deformed toe that he was born with ended up healing itself. And after she sees that it healed itself, his aunt ended up breaking the toe and bending it back. The late emperor and his children were all born with deformed toes, so this is confirmation that Kungung is in fact the late emperor's son. In the second extra, Guyun finally fulfills his promise to go to the national temple and burn incense. Afterwards, Shen Qingxu ends up finally finding an antidote for the poison that Guyun was inflicted with that damaged his eyesight and his hearing when he was young. Guyun, who has very keen senses, finds the smell to be very familiar. This leads to him opening up one of the prayer beads that the late emperor had given him, just to find out that he has been carrying around the antidote with him for 11 years. The third extra shows a younger Liao Ron who leaves the temple for the first time and ends up meeting slash seeing Gu Yun, Shen Qingxu, and Yao Zhen for the first time. And it also shows what ends up leading him to becoming a member of the Li Yuan Pavilion. The fourth extra shows Kung Gung as the emperor and how he's putting in reforms to decentralize power. Guyun and Kung Gung also end up giving Shen Yi advice because Shen Yi likes Shen Qingxu. In the fifth extra, it's revealed that even though Guyun and Kung Gung have been deemed cured, there are still lasting effects due to how long they had gone without cures. Kung Gung also learns more about Guyun as a child and how his father treated him after he was injured. This is followed by the sixth extra where it shows Guyun and his father and how his father did care about Guyun and wanted a more peaceful life for Guyun, but his father also did see that things would probably go downhill. And this is all before Guyun was injured. In the seventh extra, Shen Yi gets married to Chen Qingxu. I really liked this one because Shen Yi was a side character that I really liked, so I'm happy he got his happy ending. The eighth extra shows the crown prince's life after Li Feng passes away and his uncle Kung Gung becomes emperor, up until he eventually takes the throne when Kung Gung later gives it up and Guyun retires. In the ninth extra, Shen Yi and Chen Qingxiu have recently had a daughter. They also have an 8-year-old son who is feeling a little lonely and jealous after the birth of his sister. Kung Gung, who understands his feelings, ends up giving him advice and some encouragement. In the 10th extra, Shen Yi, Chen Qingxiu, and their daughter, who is about 7, is spending New Year's with Kung Gung and Guyun at their mountain villa called Greenhaven. Their son isn't there because just like his father, he also has a love of engines and he ends up joining the Lingshu Institute. I also like how in both the ninth and 10th extra, Kunggung and Guyun are referred to as Uncle Lee and Uncle Gu by Shen Yi's kids. In the 11th extra, Guyun finds himself in Yanhui town during the Mid-Autumn Festival, 20 years after he left that town with Kunggung for the capital. The 12th extra shows when Guyun and Shen Yi had met Kunggung for the first time, when they had saved him from a pack of wolves. There is also a note about the late emperor at the end of this extra. In the 13th extra, it's Guyun's birthday, and they're playing a penalty game where they either answer a question truthfully or they had to drink. Except Kunggung limits Guyun's drinking, so Guyun gets vinegar instead. The 14th extra shows Guyun's reaction to when he finds out the truth about how the late emperor is the reason behind him getting injured, and a letter from Kunggung is what helps him get through it. In the 15th extra, Kunggung finds out that the reason Guyun is sensitive to his pacifying fragrance is because Guyun connects the smell to Kunggung, so Kunggung ends up continuing to use it well after he's cured of the poison, and it ends up leading to being health conscious turning into a trend in Great Liang. The 16th and final extra are two anecdotes. The first one is about Kunggung and Guyun's villa and the renovations for it, and how Guyun was really into the project while Kunggung had found it to be boring. The second one was about Kunggung and how even after the war and Great Liang entering an era of peace, Kunggung still wakes up every morning to train with the iron puppets, since none of the guards would dare chase the emperor around with their swords.